Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll be going through the trade targets for round 20 of the AFL season in terms of AFL fantasy, and just going through the lack of rookies is becoming ever more present, I would say, given that we've only got, two guys? We've only got two players that are in negative break-even territory that are actually a chance of playing, because we know Harry Boyd is currently injured, I'm pretty sure, or at least he's got the injury notification on the AFL Fantasy app, I should say. But anyway, let's just jump into this video and get it started. So, as you can see, Blackiston is the number one rookie this week with the -10 break-even. And that pretty much says all that you have to know, because, yeah, I just don't see him. But he's basically played as a key defender and had two good games. Other than that, he's had a 34, a 33, and a 13. So he's averaging 41.8. That's not going to make you big cash and not really valuable at this point. I'd rather almost go just sort of those 230k non-cash generating rookies, maybe that they're a chance to play, but you're starting to look at the red dots here because you're scrounging for every single sort of penny that you can get, I would say, almost in a way. Ashton Moyer has had a pretty good couple of around 309k. I could actually see him being all right, because this 55%, I don't expect him to do that again. I'm pretty sure he was either subbed out or subbed in that game, as you can see the tog in the other games, and I think he's going to get a clear run of games after kicking 4 last week. So he could go on and score an average sort of 45, 50 or so. If we look at, he's probably going to average 55 from here on out. That's what a small forward usually does, especially at his age. And yeah, that could actually generate some cash. And at 309k, maybe he's actually the best rookie trade in, even though he doesn't have the best break even. Obviously, he's one less than or one more, you could almost say in a way, than Blackiston at -10. So yeah, those are basically the only rookies. Buller's going to get an extended time just because people at the Swans are basically saying, even though Logan McDonald's injury timeline basically came in so far, I don't expect him to play for the rest of the year. Logan McDonald's still 1 to 2 weeks away, which would make him a test in these 2 weeks here, which you're probably thinking, what are you talking about? If he doesn't play this game here, he wouldn't play in round 22. I believe the Swans have a VFL bye, I believe. And then in round 23, they've got a VFL game. So he might play that, but I don't think they're going to play him on the back of one VFL game, given that I'm pretty sure last year it was his second, this year, earlier in the season, it was his second VFL game that he broke down again with the foot. So I just don't expect him to play this year, and that'll give Buller an open run at 297k. He's definitely been better in the last couple of weeks. He just doesn't get enough of the ball, enough of everything to really warrant actually getting him at 297k. You'd rather a rookie that doesn't play, to be honest with you. Just checking Heath 285k ruck forward. I just can't see him really going anything bigger. He's had a 6 tackle game for a 49 because he gave away so many free kicks. And then, yeah, he just doesn't get enough of the footy, to be honest with you. And that's the reason why he's not going to score terribly well. And that's pretty much all of the rookies. Now we go to the coach's choice and the ins. I thought Whitfield would be the big in. Will Lorenz coming off a 56. He's probably, I would say, just because you've got guys returning, guys going out, etc., that he should get a run on the team, because I expect them to shut down, Bergman, because of his shoulder soon. They said, I want to say the most recent report that I saw with Bergman was that he was going to play the showdown and then not play again for the rest of the year, or potential not to play. So that's a big watch on Will Lorenz, I would expect, but I'm not 100% sure on that, because yeah, he sort of does score well when he gets full games, but if he's sub, he's obviously not going to score well. But at 275k or 300k next week, he could be an interesting one. Lockie Whitfield comes up against the Swans, which he went 107 against earlier this year. I expect them to potentially put either a James Jordan or a Braden Campbell onto him. which could be a little bit annoying. He's probably still, if he's non-injured, going to go 80 plus, 90 plus. So it's just whether or not you get him in round this week in round 20, or you get him in round 21 if you don't have him. Like me, I'm still considering this. I don't know whether I will go Whitfield or not. I'm just cognizant of the sort of the tag potential there with him. 83 against the Swans is one of his lowest, and I'm pretty sure there's no injury games, and the 19 games would, compared to the 8 games he's played against North Melbourne, it shows to me that there's more likely that there's an injury game against North Melbourne, and I know that there was an injury game against Gold Coast Suns as well, so it's more likely that Lockie Whitfield, and I can actually just do this for you and show you this. If we just go to players stat summary here and go to Lockie Whitfield, if we just go and show you Whitfield here, that's that one there. So if we show you Whitfield against the Swans, I don't think there's an injury in there. Let's just show you guys there. There is not an injury in that run there. There was in 2013, he might have been sub. No, probably not even sub that game. Just had a horrific sort of entry game into the AFL, and then a pretty poor game there. But you can just see he's been tagged heavily in games and had a 48 last year against the Swans. So that's why I'd be a little bit worried. Wasn't tagged against them in 2025. Will be interesting to see, or you would say earlier on in the year, but will be interesting to see what happens, because they could potentially go to that that tagging there for him. But I expect 1 or 2 of Whitfield and Callaghan to be tagged and try and just nullify their effort, because they they can be a little bit annoying when you let them roam free. So that's why I understand people trading in Whitfield, but I'd almost wait. He's a 94 break even. If he goes sort of that 120, gets away, what's his top score against the Swans? A 128 is his top score. If we were to just think about what's he probably going to go up to, he'd probably be about 950k if he went 128, his high. And he hasn't gone anywhere close to that against the Swans since 2018 and 2018, 2019. He's barely cracked the ton against them in the last 6 years against the Swans. So yeah, I just have a feeling with Whitfield, there's a plan in place basically to limit him. And I have a feeling that he's not going to score the greatest. He might score a 105 or something like that, but I don't think he's going to go off the leash, to be honest. Kennedy getting traded in because he's got the Bombers, I believe, is that tonight? No, Carlton's tonight, isn't it? The Bombers are tomorrow night. He's going to go off against them, in all honesty, and that'll be an easy trade in for everyone. Because he's 918k now, and he's still got a largish break even. But if you think about it, I don't expect him to go into the 80s. I expect him to now go sort of 100 for the year end, and he's got some pretty juicy matchups against the West Coast Eagles and Essendon in the next 5 weeks. So yeah, he's going to be probably the top averaging, or near enough the top averaging forward for the next 5 weeks. Still 1.06 million. He's put together a pretty good last 3 weeks, as you can see, having 27, 42 tackles in the last 3 weeks. He's been a guy that I've definitely watched and just seen his tackle numbers go up, and I'm just like, is there something that I'm missing with him? Because he's really starting, you can see 20 mark and tackles, 21 mark and tackles, 20 mark and tackles. So I could really see him just ending out the season really strong here, because he's somehow found that form again where he's starting to get quite a few marks, as well as just tackling everything he sees. So yeah, 130, 136, 119. I'm really worried that he's one that gets away. So I'm potentially looking at upgrading to him, just because he's on a heater at the moment, and one that I've certainly been watching the last 3 weeks, 128.3. He's going places, and he could easily end up, well, with the 5 weeks that we've got left, he's the type of difference maker. Whereas he goes on a heater, he could average if he starts getting more of the footy, he's doing 128, having 26, 25, 21 touches. He's averaging 51 plus another 21 is 72. He's averaging 24 touches and going 128. That's a ridiculous amount. Most people need to average somewhere in the mid-30s for that. So that just shows the difference with him. And that's why I'm really concerned about it, because I don't think I'll be able to get to him. But if I could get to a Jack Steele, I think I would with this Melbourne, North Melbourne, Richmond, Essendon back end. That's a really strong back end, and I could see him going big, especially with their midfield being so shot. Dunkley as well, he's doing something similar, you can see, but he's sort of that next stage above Steele, where he can get that sort of 30 touch game, 30 touch here as well. 28, etc. You can see 28 here, 27, 26, 24, etc. 30 here again, another 28, 27 against the Swans. And so that really does complement his tackling ability, which has been on fire the last 2 weeks. He's been on tackle record watch alongside the likes of, who was it? Like Steele, Rowbottom as well was close, I'm pretty sure as well. So yeah, those guys are two that, with the back ends that they do have, like if we look at it, I know he's got difficult run here, but for Josh Dunkley, but we've seen in the past against Gold Coast earlier in the year, he went 106. Collingwood earlier in the year, he went 197. Sydney, he went 130. Fremantle, he has not played them this year. No, he's not played them this year, because why would you not play a team until the second last round of the year? And then Hawthorn, he went 93 against. So he's the one good thing about Josh Dunkley, other than this sort of 2 or 3 game run here where he really just forgot how to play footy. He's been really has a high floor, like 78, 75 at 2 games there. But aside from that, sort of a little bit, he seems to always be season on season. He always has that high 90s floor, where he doesn't really have those big games, but yeah, just really high floor game, it feels like. Obviously, there was a couple of 70s in there, which doesn't help. But he doesn't have the like Sarong 40s and other top players where they just do not have a good game or two in a year, and they really fail. Like, we also talk about the likes of Lachie Whitfield being a similar characteristic there of a high floor game, basically, when he's not injured. Teakle is one that I'm willing to look at for this week. 5 marks, 6 tackles. He gave away 5 free kicks for a 95 against the Swans. We will see who goes into the ruck for North Melbourne tonight, or who gets named there, I should say. But Geelong, he could do pretty well. We saw Marshall went 100 against them, as well as Heath went 50. So they do give up ruck points. So I think Teakle could be really good, especially with Coleman Jones being down injured and Cherry being out for another 2 weeks due to suspension. So he could be a 2-week play where he gains, if we just look at it, and I'm probably going to actually need the AFL fantasy price projector here. If we go to Teakle and he sort of averages 80s, I would say, because that's sort of what we almost want as a rookie. If Teakle can average 80s, and I think I showed this sometime, or at least looked at it, 59, 61, 54. So that is, he could easily get to 560k, which 560k, it's a little bit easier to move him on, etc. But if he gets all the way and has a big game in there somewhere, he's suddenly in the 580ks. And if he can have an even bigger game, which I'm not going to say he's going to have it, but if he can, then that suddenly could potentially get out to 600k, which that would be huge. So Teakle is one as a forward at 446k. I know he's potentially going to have his role just completely diminished in a couple of weeks' time, but there's also a point to say that with the amount of players that North Melbourne are losing, he could potentially just be in the side as a forward, the forward ruck, etc. in future, but we'll see when Cherry comes back. Wangani Malira is a guy that I'm happy that I've owned for a fair chunk of time. He's going into that midfield role and is a potential, I would say he's a VC candidate, or is it a C candidate given their games? He would be a C candidate, I would think. But then you've got also Nick Dacos against Richmond, so you're probably going to captain Nick Dacos. But yeah, you've got the C candidates this week are actually a lot better than the VCs. But yeah, that's what I would be looking at with the likes of Wangani Malira, is just you need him in your side. Even though he's 1.152 million, you just need him. Bontempelli, yep. he's another guy playing the Essendon game. Target the matchups, even though it failed for the Essendon versus Richmond game. You still want to keep targeting the easy matchups because Nick Martin was on pace for like a 110, 120, and I'm pretty sure Zach Merritt still scored a 105 against them or something. So yeah, target the matchups, and I have a feeling Bont goes pretty well in this matchup. Went 101 against a more healthy Essendon side earlier in the year, and I feel like he goes larger this year to end the year. Max Gawn, I think a lot of people still looking in the ruck lane and going, where do we move here? Probably because they had other things to do with the Cherry suspension. They probably had other injuries like Nick Martin, as well as probably moving on Connor Rosé and Jason Horne-Francis. So they waited a little bit for the likes of to move Terry. They probably had other avenues, and now this week they're going for Max Gawn. I understand that. I still really do like Brodie Grundy, but he is just excessively expensive now, and he played 3 quarters last week for a 129, and he's 1.198 million and is now the 8th ranked player for the year in terms of average. And he could easily run it close in terms of the top averages, I would think. McManam as a forward to 39k. I think people just want a playing forward that could potentially, if he goes well, have an avenue to get an emergency off the bench, because they seem to play Essendon really early in the week each week. So that's probably the reason there. Harley Reid, mid defender. He's had a really good last 3 weeks. Yeah, there's not much wrong you can say about Harley in the last 3 weeks. He's averaging in the mid-20s touch-wise, as well as getting his tackles up. So he's doing really well there. At 787k, he's a tough one to say to grab, though, just because I can see the avenue where he had this game against Collingwood. He's had other 50 games as well. So I just don't see there being I just don't see him being able to continue on what he's doing, especially against Fremantle, where he put up if we look at it, a 61 earlier in the year. And that was a pretty decent game by him, I'm pretty sure, from memory. And then he's got Melbourne, where he went 32 against. And then he's got Adelaide as well, where he went 54. And then the Western Bulldogs, where he hasn't played them yet, because why is every team playing the team that they haven't played? In round 23, and then in round 24 he plays Sydney, which they haven't played yet, because Max Heath, understand that to a certain extent. Nick Dacos, Brodie Grundy, these two are probably big captaincy options for the run-in. Basically, if Nick Dacos doesn't get tagged, he's going to go large, and if he does get tagged, he just struggles a little bit. Sometimes he doesn't. So yeah, I can just see it with Nick Dacos, him being the type of guy that's going to run close to best on for the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks for the rest of the year. He does have against Brisbane earlier this year. He went 131. He does have Hawthorn, who have tagged him before. He went 128 against them. I don't think they're going to forget to tag him this time. Then he plays Adelaide, who he went 88 against. Pretty sure he had someone running with him. Might have even been like a Neil Bullen or something. And then, it was probably like a Peatling or something. And then he's got Melbourne, who he went 83 against. Pretty sure he might have had a little bit of injury concerns in that Melbourne game, but I'm not 100% sure from memory. Robertson, I think this is just because he's cheap and the potential to play. But yeah, 230k mid forward, yeah, that's probably it. Basement price, as we were saying. And then Chad Warner, Graham Myers, etc. Just trying to find that forward that's going to pop for the next couple of weeks, because we kind of need it. And Graham Myers has probably got he's got the matchup this week, and he does have a really good run home. So I'm probably going to pick him up against Essendon, because he went 112 against them. He's going to play Sydney, where he probably does average pretty well against. He averages 62 against us. So everyone doesn't play well against Sydney, which is kind of an annoying thing for fantasy, but a good thing for me personally. And then, Trav Warner, etc. You can see that he's 107, 82, 97. He's just not got that breakout big sort of 130 type of score in him. It doesn't feel like on the regular, whereas some of these guys like Nick Dacos just pick the pill up for fun. And then Jai Simpkin, I just do not rate him as a player, to be honest with you, and just had a decent game against Sydney last week, but he was turning the ball over quite a lot. And then that's pretty much that for the trade targets video for AFL Fantasy Round 20. If you guys did enjoy it, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and I will see you back here for my team reveal video for Round 20 of the AFL Fantasy season in a little bit. Bye, guys.